Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be checking out Super Eyepatch Wolf. Let's go with covering Nathan Fielder, who I've learned is absolutely insane and does some things that are a little, let's call them questionable. That's a nice way to say, oh my god, how are you literally committing crimes with people willingly agree to them, knowing in advance what you're doing? And then they seem to come back for more. Also known as, oh my god, that last half of the video was, that was a lot, and we're going to get into the rest of it, and it's going to be a lot, and I'm probably going to say a few things that I will not regret because they will be completely accurate to how I'm feeling and still do. Yeah. If you haven't seen what happened before, oh, this is going to be a ride. I'm not even going to say to go back to check it out. Check out the original video. Assume that the last video was me just going, how are they doing this? Because that's basically my entire take, and I have no idea still. It's going to get weirder. You guys know the deal. Link below, video. Hit it up. Let's get started.
Another involves Nathan building a mechanical claw that will undo his pants, exposing him to an audience of children, at which point a real-life on-stage police officer will take Nathan to prison, where he will be charged as a sex offender unless he can undo the handcuffs and escape in time. And again,
how did anyone agree to this? I get someone doing something stupid on YouTube because, no, oversight, we can do whatever we want. We find out we're not allowed whenever something bad happens. This was on TV. This was on network TV. Why? I don't... Also, let's ignore the fact that whoever is controlling this robot is being very delicate, because this could have easily gone in from, hey, we're going to do something morally questionable, to, oh, look, he's been disemboweled. You can find these types of robots in factories that makes cars. They move fast.
This is all very funny, if slightly disturbing, but as ideas a genuine person would submit in good...
Pet Mama. Here lies Buzz, my loyal friend, whose favorite store was Pet Mania. What? Mention this gravestone for a 15% discount. Did they literally do a sponsored tombstone?
Good faith, it seemed like too far. And the more I watched and the more I learned about Nathan Fielder's personal life, the more inconsistencies began to emerge. In one episode, which for the sake of brevity, I will just describe as Nathan stealing the skin of another man and taking over his life. It's such a weird episode.
Did the guy know in advance? You know what? I don't know. I'm not going to ask. Someone might actually tell me, yes, that's exactly what happened. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Swear to God. Involves a disguised Nathan going on a date with a woman named Jasmine, who we're told is a regular person Nathan met on OkCupid. And
okay, one, there's people who actually exist on these websites? Honestly, at this point, I just assumed it was all bots talking to bots and kind of living into the mood of hard dead internet theory.
That is not true. I was able to dig up this old Reddit thread where Jasmine talks about her experience on the show, and she never actually had an OkCupid. Those sections were all inserted after her scenes were shot. So then, how did they meet? Well,
so some of the creepiness was manufactured. I know right now he's going for, well, this is an inconsistency. Maybe it's not real. And I'm just sitting here going like, oh, thank God, some of this isn't real. That actually makes me feel less disturbed.
Well, the answer to that is that Jasmine is actually a paid actor who auditioned for this part.
Makes sense.
And while she...
I mean, what he's talking about right now is actually something that I've known a lot of shows that are slightly reality to do. For example, HGTV does this a lot with their housing shows, which I'm not just saying because I went on a massive bender of housing shows, because my wife doesn't like to acknowledge that, but if I did, it would be kind of a thing. But that's a thing that is just a common aspect to, well, let's get the nice looking people, let's get the younger crowd, let's get the people who are willing to do the kind of crazy shit that we would need to pay a lawsuit for otherwise. which also explains a lot of the crazy stunts prior to this. It's not reality TV, it's reality TV, which admittedly is still fucked up, but less so. It's reality adjacent. I'm actually more okay with this.
Was not acting
is what I would say, except I see the runtime here. So that's not going to be the end of it. Oh God.
in these scenes. She did confirm that they were heavily edited, splicing in dialogue from unused portions of the episode to create conversations that never happened.
So they're making it worse than
it might not say anything about Nathan himself. What it shows is an attempt to create a fabricated narrative and sell it as real.
And honestly, yeah. I think this is a morally gray area, but it's not black and white in the sense that this is bad. I don't think it's bad. I think, okay, we're saying it's reality, but it's really scripted. But it's script adjacent is kind of should you do that? It's debatable, but it's not as bad as, oh my God, you actually did insert the robot thing, insert blackmailing people to make them lose weight. That is, if it seems like this show is freaking me out right now, I wonder why.
What I think is so interesting about this is that the idea of fabricating reality, of creating something that seems real but is actually an illusion, is a narrative that comes up in Nathan For You over and over and over. In one episode, Nathan is tasked with improving a haunted house, and to do this, he tricks the house's guests into thinking they've contracted a contagious skin disease, loading them into a hospital van where men in hazmat suits forcibly try and quarantine them before revealing that this was all just part of the haunted house. There's a lot of misdirection in
Admittedly, that actually sounds pretty fun.
Nathan For You.
I mean, I hate haunted houses.
Manipulating people into believing something.
Dear God. Is that the guy's actual face or is that a bunch of prosthesis? I legitimately can't tell. Oh, wow.
Believing something that isn't real. And what I find so curious about this is that while Nathan did go to business school, he's also a lifelong magician and is even a member of the Magic Castle, an organization.
I don't know why, but I think I've heard of this, and I don't know why I've heard of it. It's probably a random documentary I saw late at night that I kind of watched, but was all falling asleep through.
Of highly skilled performers specializing in the arts of illusion and misdirection. Had I been wrong? Was this all too some kind of illusion? And where that unease turned into straight up suspicion was when I learned that Nathan was also a member of his high school's sketch comedy club, captained by Seth Rogen. Oh, the Seth Rogen bit doesn't really matter.
Seriously? He's a comedian? Oh, what do you know?
I just thought it was, you know, small world. The more I was learning about Nathan, the less sense any of this
He was just a
made.
regular actor.
But there was a much bigger revelation coming. One of Nathan's consistent character traits over the course of Nathan For You is his debilitating social anxiety, and especially around women, which he himself describes as a chronic nervousness. And in order to overcome this, Nathan sets up an elaborate reality dating show called The Hunk, in which he dates 10 women at the same time. And it's a really fun episode and mildly heartwarming, if a little questionable, as Nathan does slowly grow more comfortable around women. The only thing is, at this point, Nathan had actually been married for 3 years, having...
Oh. I mean, that does kind of fit the entire, I'm just doing my bit thing. I guess the creepy part, and since I see the runtime is probably going to go this way, is that how much of this wasn't a scripted thing and him being, let's go with a little Weinstein about it.
Met his real-life wife Sarah Zhokowska in 2007 and marrying her in 2011. This episode being shot in late 2013, early 2014. And there it was, the first real splinter between the Nathan For You character and the real-life Nathan Fielder.
On the one hand, yes. On the other hand, I mentioned the Weinstein thing. I'm pretty sure the way Super Eyepatch Wolf is going to go on this one is, see, he's actually fine with women because he's married. On the other hand, he has an entire group of women he's becoming comfortable with. Also, yeah, of course, if it was real, he would not become comfortable over the course of a single episode. No matter how much time they put into that, that's not how that kind of thing works. But I'm now wondering if we're going to go a much darker route because it's a Super Eyepatch Wolf video with runtime to go, so it could still do that. I mentioned Weinstein as a joke, and now I'm really kind of thinking, are we going to go that way? Are we really going this way? I thought it was just like, here's someone creepy who can pull off creepy, but also is doing it intentionally because it's funny. And that's kind of interesting dynamic. And now we're going, okay, we're seeing that. And I don't want that to be the case. It gets creepy, man.
And the further I dove into Nathan's past, the more inconsistencies began to emerge. Nathan's first big break was on the news show This Hour Has 22 Minutes, in which he starred in 2 segments, Nathan's Nook and Nathan on Your Side.
And now 22's Nathan Fielder gives us his take on this week's politics in Nathan's Nook.
You know what's really pissing me off these days? Those jokers up on Parliament Hill.
Parliament? Oh, he's British.
While he still plays the same awkward Nathan Fielder in these segments, the difference here is there is now a much more direct and obvious attempt at comedy. Like in one section, which is meant to be a consumer advocacy bit on what to look for when buying an MP3 player, but the gag of the scene is how Nathan consistently sandbags the sales clerk.
Have you seen the new iPod MP3 players available?
Oh yeah, I'm not really interested in an MP3 player.
No.
Oh.
No,
I hear that.
Oh yeah, I'm not really interested in an MP3 player.
So that's how they did. It was scripted, so they put over the laugh track on top of it. Did they add that in later, or did they know that it had to be in there and he paused specifically because he knew that he had to put that in? I don't know how they would script this in with this level of TV show. It's something that a lot of shows do, especially, well, anything past 2000. So, it sounds like he knew that would be a line, but they could have also just clipped it and then put it in later because they knew it would be funny then. But at least they knew going into it this was the joke.
No. Would you like to see what I'm speaking about?
That's okay, I'll just have a look around by myself, I think.
Other segments involve Nathan interviewing a worker at an animal shelter, the gag being that Nathan is severely allergic to animals, which we know he isn't from future shows.
I mean, I got 2 cats and I'm massively allergic, so that's not really a bit. That could be also, I just want to point out right now. Oh my god, look at that kitty. Oh my god, so freaking cute. Also the puppy too. But the kitty, oh.
Or Nathan making strained political analogies while pulling out an increasingly elaborate array of props from his jacket. The difference between these segments and everything else we've talked about is here, each section has a defined, obvious joke, and that, plus the addition of a laugh track, means these sections blink. They want you to know this is not real, that you are meant to laugh. And at this point, the idea of Nathan Fielder being anything other than a comedy character played by an actor was starting to feel a little silly. And
it's only starting to feel silly now? No. This is all insane every step of the way. And frankly, I kind of respect him a lot more as we're finding out just how much he's refining his craft to become increasingly disturbing because he found his niche. I thought I'd be going into this thinking, oh, this is going to be weird because people actually believe this. And I'm like, oh, this is weird, but it works because a guy found a style of humor that seems to work for him. Also, I'm a lot happier because the entire Weinstein thing didn't seem to pan out, and I'm hoping it doesn't change. Please, future me, if for any reason I'm wrong, just end it here. If you're still seeing this, it didn't, so that's nice to know.
Yet, there was one more piece of evidence that would settle this matter entirely.
He won an award.
Something I stumbled across while searching for Nathan's appearances on old comedy specials is Nathan actually has a personal YouTube channel. And while his most recent videos are very much him in character, what's interesting is the channel actually goes back 16 years.
These are the recent ones? How old is this video? It's a year old, so that'd be 5 years at the time he shot this, maybe even longer. That is a very... That's probably right when he got into comedy and got full-time bids as opposed to whatever he did prior to that. Okay.
Its first videos posted in 2006, some of which are surreal sketches which feel inspired by the likes of Mr. Show, but some feel like prototypes for the Nathan For You character. One video titled Job Hunt starts with Nathan telling the audience about how he's been fired from his job and wants to make a documentary on how hard it is to find employment in Toronto.
Oh, so he is Canadian. Okay. Is it bad that I'm kind of actually wishing this is unironically a documentary? That actually sounds fun. Also, just everyone look at the screen right now. It's like, hey, remember when this was high def? Because we were looking, it's like, dude, that is so crisp. I remember that. I didn't for a while. Then I went back to my family house where they still have a CRT TV. I was like, oh, that's different. Yeah.
However, before he's even done shaving, Nathan gets a phone call telling him he's been hired for a new job, destroying the entire concept of the documentary.
I mean, that's why you know it's a joke. That doesn't actually happen in real life. Ever.
Boom mic falls awkwardly into shot and we see the documentary crew in the background, who Nathan now must awkwardly fire. What I think's interesting here is how this moment breaks the artifice of what you're watching. This is a documentary that goes wrong, and this isn't the only time Nathan messes with viewer expectation like this. In another video titled Simply the Best...
Also, can we just acknowledge that's just a weird way to shave half your face? I mean, that's of course why I did it, but it's definitely weird. And I'm not just saying that I'm seeing this is how I shave, and I may or may not like the fact that the way he's doing it intentionally weird is the way I do it unintentionally. And I'm not like, you know, maybe feeling a little conflicted right now because of this. And it's definitely not freaking me out. I'm not just freaking out. I probably should move on at this point, but I can't because it's just, yeah, there's nothing like this. I don't do anything like this. This is, I don't unironically happen to do some of the things he puts on as an act to make himself seem weird. That sounds believable.
Is with viewer expectation like this. In another video titled Simply the Best, Nathan is hanging out with a girl before he begins silently wording the lyrics of the Howie Day song Collide to her. Ooh. And while I do not cringe because I am too strong, that definitely feels like the intention here. Look at this idiot embarrassing himself. But what's really interesting is what happens in the last 30 seconds. The singing trails off, and both Nathan and this girl turn and stare silently into camera. Stare at you. And you should watch this video. It is deeply uncomfortable, nearly accusatory. Before this moment, you were the audience. You were this voyeuristic entity observing this third-hand humiliation. But this moment changes that. Now so you become part of the narrative.
I've actually seen a few other shows and animations play around with this concept of dragging the audience in a way that suddenly makes them feel massively uncomfortable because it's breaking the fourth wall. When done badly, it's like, oh yeah, here's a joke, or oh yeah, here's them just fucking up. When it's done like this, I think this actually falls under the, okay, you're feeling something, and it's not, this is stupid, it's more, this is creepy. Which admittedly, I think is the way I've seen it used the most often to get across a creep factor, because it's your involvement in a place where you were disconnected initially. And that sudden drawing in is unsettling and effective. Kind of surprised that the old YouTube sketches he did would actually show that kind of thought process. But maybe I shouldn't be, considering we've seen how his process is. Let's go with unique to start with. Yeah, that's a safe word.
Nearly like you're being asked, why are you watching this? What are you getting out of it? And
Creep
what
factor.
does that say about you as a person? However, there was an even
9
bigger
hours.
smoking gun here, and it came in the form of a 1.5-minute long video where Nathan is not Nathan at all.
Oh.
He's psychic Ronald Shube.
My
What?
first book, Me Psychic, You Psychic, talked about how we all have psychic powers
Oh, is this one of the other personas he never really took off with? Oh.
and how to stay connected with yourself and with the spirit world. Spirits
I hate how every second about this I'm thinking, yeah, there's actually a book like that out there that probably exists, and this is probably not even a joke anymore. Yeah, nothing to say here, just aware of it. Don't like it.
communicate with me, and my body is just a vessel. So I invite everyone to come inside me.
So
That's a
this
joke
is
they went for.
Nathan playing a fictional character for comedy with a self-awareness that's completely incompatible with the Nathan portrayed in Nathan For You. And honestly, I started to feel really foolish at this point. I felt dumb for getting drawn into the illusion like I had, and started to question everything, like even those photos of Nathan as a teenager.
I mean, if he didn't actually stage those, I would be very surprised at this point. Would this be staged? I don't know anything about how to do that kind of stuff with these kind of pictures. It is weird how they have a shadow that stops on the picture here for these people, him, her, and even this guy to an extent, but I don't see it with the sun in the background. Could just be lighting. I don't know how that would work out.
Were these real photos, or were they also part of the illusion? Could
If he's
could
been
they
playing
have
it
been
long enough,
faked?
maybe.
I mean, Nathan is
If he's separated all of them, he could have actually added them in Photoshop. That would be, oh, frankly, if that was like a multi-source strategy to build the character up, that would actually make it really fun.
wearing the same pair of pants in 3 of these photos, and did that suggest a stage shoot with a
Yeah, can you imagine someone in multiple videos and pictures wearing the same thing for years? Yeah, that's definitely fake. No one would actually do that. Did not expect this video to call me out so hard. Wow.
limited wardrobe, or did teenage Nathan just really like these pants? And when I tried to trace the source of these images, it led me back to a Tumblr blog that had been deleted in 2015, 2 years after Nathan For You began.
So
I
it was
couldn't know
probably
what that
staged.
meant, but what I did know
Still not bad.
was I had found
He's really put thought into
definitive
this.
proof. Nathan Fielder was not real. He was a fictional character portrayed by a comedy actor,
Yeah.
as genuine as the psychic Ronald Shube. So I guess there we go. Mystery solved.
But-
Illusion shattered. You're welcome, everybody.
Well, that's the video, and we all know it's nothing else going to happen. And no, wait, there's more. Joking aside, it's kind of cool to see that there is that definite progression, that things are staged. I think that means the next part is, and now we find out how much of this isn't, which is probably going to be more creepy.
So why is there still so long left in this video? Well, everything we just talked about is a conclusion I came to,
But
that was before something happens.
did you actually meet
And
him?
that thing was... I rewatched the final episode of Nathan For You,
Oh,
an episode called Finding Francis.
who?
Even by Nathan For You standards, Finding Francis is unusual. Unlike a regular episode, it's not 22 minutes long, but an hour and a half.
Oh,
and unlike
shit.
a regular episode, it's not about Nathan helping a small business or launching some publicity stunts, but finding a missing person.
Oh,
At
shit.
various points during Nathan For You, Nathan works with professional Bill Gates impersonator, Bill Heath.
When we started our...
Wait, that's what Bill Gates looks like? I don't actually have the slightest clue what the guy looks like. You could have told me he was any upper management guy in a bank and I would have believed it.
computers, back in the 80s, it was huge.
Bill had taken to showing up at Nathan's studio, hanging around and telling stories.
Why?
And the one story he'd tell repeatedly was about his long-lost love, a
Oh, so this was a running plot line. Oh.
woman named Frances. Nathan decides he wants to help Bill find Frances, and the two embark on a kind of road trip together. But as the journey goes on, and the more Nathan finds out about Bill, the more concerned he grows about who Bill actually is and what might happen if they really do find Frances.
I am disgusted with you of all this talk and gossip about you and Gloria.
In order to gauge how Bill will behave in a romantic situation, Nathan hires an escort, Macy, who has experience with older male clients. An encounter Bill unceremoniously turns down.
I hate to use that term. You gotta know what you're sticking it in.
Jesus, Bill.
Yeah, Jesus, Bill. And so Nathan decides he will meet Macy himself.
God damn. This was on TV. This was on TV. I'm just coming back to my first thing we said in the beginning of the video. Someone signed off on this. I mean, if this was HBO, this would be like, ah, yeah, sure, this is fine. This is tame for them. I think this is still Comedy Central at this point. I don't know. And I thought their line is pretty high, but usually that's more on their complete and utter sketch comedy, not things that people can almost think is real. I mean, he's on Comedy Central. It should tell you how real it is, but at the same time, what the...
To ask her about her experiences with older men. And what follows is one of the most baffling scenes in Nathan For You. Not because Nathan is awkward, but because he isn't.
What?
Nathan seems genuinely fascinated by Macy's insight into the escort industry, and she in turn seems curious about him. It's strange watching Nathan have chemistry with someone, but stranger still is what happens next. Nathan does something he's never done with a single other person over the entire course of the show. He shows Macy Nathan For You. And Macy calls him out on it. She says he's mean for misleading people, and when she does, you can see Nathan struggle to maintain the illusion.
Now that's actually fascinating. Like, no wonder it's the last episode. They're trying things that they never would do if they're going for a new season. I'm assuming they knew that this is the end for them, because this isn't shattering the illusion. This is taking a sledgehammer to it and seeing if there's pieces they could put back together, because they want to see if they can. And you don't do that if you need to have it there next week or next year or whenever the season comes back. So that's... I want to hear a documentary about this shit. I mean, take what we are, but
to every last one of them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
You're
business.
like mean funny.
As Nathan runs into dead end
Yeah,
after
kinda.
dead end in the search for Frances,
more awkward.
he
funny.
finds himself alone most evenings, and in those moments, his thoughts go back to Macy, and so he sets up another date with her. But this time, watch what happens when Macy tells Nathan she thinks his show is funny.
Oh, yeah.
That one was really funny.
Thank you, Macy. That's really nice of you to say.
He is delighted. He accepts the compliment. And what's so crazy about this is that at no other point during Nathan For You, or even in any of the interviews I found, does Nathan acknowledge the joke, acknowledge the illusion, except now. Except with Macy.
And they've already proven that they're more than welcome to splice in clips and sound and audio to rearrange it to show exactly what they wanted. So this isn't, this is what we got, we're working with it. It is, this is what we want to put out explicitly. I'm actually deeply fascinated about why they made these creative choices here. Is it because it's the end of the show so we can kind of reveal the curtain a bit? Or were they actually just trying something weird? They just happened to go like this and they didn't care. I doubt that last one, because if you put that much work into a character you've continued for multiple shows, that couldn't be the case. Maybe this is just him seeing what it would be like to send it off with that final, that's all, folks, directly to the audience as the very first time you acknowledge you're being watched type moment.
And in doing so, the artifice comes crumbling down. So, who are we now actually watching? If everything up till now had been a fictional character, is this now the real Nathan Fielder?
Probably not.
Or was there always an element of reality here? And the kind of unsettling part
He would be married at
is
this point.
that those are all questions Nathan himself seems to be losing the answers to.
When you prioritize your career for too long, you just become desperate for any human connection. And the more we kept shooting things, the harder it was to tell where the show ended and life began.
Oh, that's what that was trying to get into. It's both the way to end the show is saying, I've reached the end, I need to stop, be myself. And we're showing him going crazy, or not crazy, but dropping the act because he wants to have the human. Okay, I think I get this. So the internal meta perspective is that there's the character, then there's the meta perspective, which is there's the character, but then there's the real person who's showing through in this one, but then she's definitely going to come out. I wouldn't be surprised if she was also hired specifically to play the escort, or as an escort, as playing herself as an escort, so could be double layered on that point, to play the point of the person who's probably getting the human connection with him. And that's probably the internal reasoning of the show. So the third meta level reasoning would be, we need a good way to end the show. So let's go to the second level meta reasoning of the internal narrative of the character playing Nathan Fielder is ending the show. And then there's the base level narrative, which would be crazy guy doing crazy things suddenly shows that he's just acting a character, but showing a different character. Because if he actually wanted to stop, there wouldn't be follow-up shows. Okay. That's actually really fascinating how they layered that.
Watching this episode made me feel back at square one. I genuinely didn't know if I was now seeing the real Nathan Fielder or just being taken in by a deeper layer of the illusion.
I mean, I would say deeper layer,
The
but
more
also
I thought
bits
about
and
it,
pieces
the more I thought
exaggerated.
about the parts of Nathan for you that aren't funny, the more I thought about the strange personal narrative that forms over the course of the show. Nathan Fielder is this person who wants to believe he understands business, wants to believe he understands people, but during the filming of his show, he realizes that he isn't that he has no idea how to connect to people, that people find him weird and strange and off-putting.
I have no faith in your competence in this business. I have no faith in your judgment whatsoever.
No, but you're so weird.
No, Jonathan, I'm not weird.
You are crazy.
No, I'm normal.
You're very manipulative and conniving, and I don't like it.
For all I know, you're crazy.
You know what you are? You remind me of the Wizard of Loneliness, because you're your own self, your own wizard. Look at you.
Yeah, and it does fit into the meta narrative they were telling, layered on top of the end of the show. So it's not just the show itself, it's the show and then the show beside the show, which is him probably ending the show. I love this. Sorry, I love meta narratives in general. There's something I find absolutely fascinating. So this kind of thing is, if I wouldn't find the actual base level narrative enraging and just way too off-putting, I think everything else around it is kind of fascinating.
You got a pink shirt and everything else. Oh, you're killing me.
Wait, that's off-putting?
Nathan also discovers a way that he can artificially overcome this. And you can see this particularly in that episode of The Hunk, when Nathan realizes that he can create scenarios to surround himself with people and affection. And this is a constant throughout the show after this point. In 2 other episodes, Nathan needs to hire an actor for a scheme, and in both those sections, he very quickly develops feelings for those actors.
Can we not go back to the Weinstein adjacent thing where you write in scenes where you get affection from random women on a part of a show? Because there's a little too much of this that actually happened and went to lawsuits at this time period that I'm feeling comfortable with. It's probably not. It's probably not. There's no more runtime here. I'm just ignoring that.
And I told you I was in character, but I feel like there might have been some of me in there. And say, I love you.
I love you.
Again.
I love you.
Again.
I love you.
Again.
You have tears in your eyes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He does.
Even with Macy, for as genuine as their chemistry seems,
really,
Nathan is paying Macy for her company. Even the realest moments of Nathan for you are artificial. But the strangest instances of this artificiality are the times when Nathan literally becomes another person. Once by basically focus testing his entire personality, leading to him having what I can only describe as
oh, wow. That is aggressively New Jersey. If the first words we hear out of him aren't, I'm walking here, I'm going to be a little surprised.
Describe as serious Mark Zuckerberg trying to be human energy.
So tell me about your foot massage parlor.
And in another where he has to attend a stranger's wedding while wearing another man's clothes, and yet another in that infamous episode where he steals a man's skin. But in those latter 2, what's so interesting is how Nathan finds himself nearly more comfortable as another person than he is himself.
There was something about being in another person's skin that made all my social anxiety vanish. I was able to charm complete strangers. It was a side of me I had never seen before.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, of course.
And as it came to an end, I actually felt a bit sad, knowing that I'd soon have to go back to being me.
He has fun. He connects to people. And there is no joke here. There is no punchline. It's just there. Just these moments where Nathan seems more comfortable inhabiting a reality that isn't real.
And considering we've established that the character he plays isn't him, I guess the real question now is how much of it isn't? Because a lot of what people who do these characters do is hype up their aspect, hype up the anger, hype up the anxiety, hype up the humor, hype up the sadness, hype up the emotion to make them more distinct. Here, he's definitely hyping up the social awkwardness to Bocchi levels. And, no, maybe not that far. But it is the character he's playing, and that's what he's hyping up. And even when he's showing that little ending clip, you can tell that he's hyping up the just being a general human person, which wouldn't normally be the hype. But by comparison to the other way he usually portrays it, you can see that there. It's fascinating. Just how much of it is he hyping up? How much is actually him? What was the basis here? You can see if he's a sketch comic with apparently Seth Rogen, and he's been doing that for a while, you know what's going on. I'm assuming the business show was all completely, or the business school was all BS, because why not? And they were just trying to sell him as a real character, to sell it as a reality TV show without explicitly telling people it's not a reality TV show. It's a sketch comedy show with unwilling participants, is what you're supposed to think it is, but it's actually all completely scripted to some extent. Reality adjacent seems like, yeah, I used that before, and that does seem like the best way to put it. I wish we had more documentaries about all the people around it. And if they're out there, well, that's because I've never looked them up, because I never thought about this before, and I was way too creeped out in the last part to check that out.
And so, while Nathan For You is a comedy show, there is also running through it this strange story of a person coming to understand the space between himself and other people, and constructing these artificial scenarios and identities to overcome it. But as he does, he slowly starts to lose track of himself.
Oh, that looks
He
weird.
stops being able to tell what's simulated and what isn't. And that is where we leave him in the final episode of Finding Francis. And find him 3 years later in the first episode of The Rehearsal.
Oh. And that's where I'm going to have to cut this one because I actually am a little late to go feed the cats and they are very loud. I'm not sure if the mic picks it up or not, but I'm going to probably need to replace the carpet outside the door because they are clawing at it and at the door, and I'm sure that'll be replaceable. I should have done that in advance. Yes, that's actually completely my fault, but that's on me. More importantly, though, this is actually really fascinating. The first time around, it's like, oh God, this is reality TV show in the weirdest way possible. It's like, hey, let's crime. But now we're getting to the more, no, it's scripted still. There's a lot more safer here. This is not like Borat, where it's more like The Dictator, which was still, but had scripting and was not going to get them banned from an entire state for filming it there, which is a thing that happened. So I kind of like this, and I'm very curious to see how he's going to take this in the next bit. I'm actually looking forward to it. Unlike last time where I was just mind melting out of my ears, what the fuck are we engaged? This is fascinating, seeing how there's levels of meta narrative, seeing how the character's progressing, seeing how this is going, getting weirder and weirder at every step. And if we were just playing with the meta narratives at the end, we've already seen a few clips at the very beginning of this video where Super Eyepatch Wolf talked about how there was segments where like, I'm not your real dad. Acknowledging the show is all fake and seeing what's going to happen from there, and just seeing that disconnect between reality playing the act and the act crumbling apart and just doing more with that. I'm actually really excited to see where this goes because it's a level of meta awareness that it seems to be something Nathan Fielder is playing with right now that is both creepy and fascinating. I didn't think I would go through this video and become this invested, but I actually really am, and I kind of love it. So if you guys haven't already, there's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. Super Eyepatch Wolf is doing a great job of telling the story in such an engaging way to build up how creepy something is, but how immersive it becomes and how it's both weirder and more normal than you expect in different ways that I never saw coming. I love this. Also, because my entire idea this might be going full Epstein is definitely not accurate, and I'm okay with that. I know I said Weinstein. It's because I was censoring myself and I didn't want to say that until it was too late, because there's a line I don't want to cross until I don't need to worry about that. And if I happen to be eating my words in the next video, oh, that'll suck. More importantly, again, link below. Hit it up. And if you can, leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.